Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. On today's show, Kyle Bauer is visiting with Martin Draper, head of the Department of Plant Pathology at Kansas State University. Then enjoy this week's Kansas soybean update. Next, Dwayne Taves and Jim Nelson are talking swine production in Kansas. Then it's this week's Angus Report, and we'll end with Plain Talk featuring Kyle and Dwayne. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Up first, Kyle Bauer and Martin Draper discuss research going on at the Department of Plant Pathology at KSU.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer visiting with Dr. Martin Draper, and he is head of the Plant Pathology Department. Of course, that is in the College of Agriculture at Kansas State University. Let's talk about, at first here, Doctor, about the Plant Pathology Department as far as an overview.
Sure. So plant pathology we think of as the science where we're protecting our food supply, our fiber supply, from diseases. So it's separate from entomology. We're not concerned about insect pests. We're concerned about plant health and the bacteria, fungi, nematodes, and other organisms that can actually cause specific diseases. So just like you and I get diseases, our pets get diseases, our livestock get diseases, those same kinds of organisms can cause diseases on plants. We want to make sure that there is a food supply available that's not being compromised by these organisms.
Well, certainly at Kansas State, you may not be unique, but you're certainly part of a minority. You don't have undergraduate students.
Right. So I believe we're the only department in the College of Agriculture that does not have an undergraduate program, but we do have a large graduate teaching program and a large research program that receives grant funding from a number of diverse sources. So
those grad students, they come from probably all over the world.
Absolutely. About half of our graduate student population is international, with representation from Asia and South America. We certainly have a contingent that comes from the U.S. as well. A small part of that group comes from Kansas, but we have them coming from all over the country to our program.
From what you've described to me, your funding probably is not dependent on the number of students that you have enrolled.
Well, actually, the number of students that we have enrolled is dependent on our funding. So when we look at the grants that come in, those grants support those students through assistantships and will help determine how many students a particular professor might have in their program. And as I mentioned, that we do get a lot of grants, and we're a highly ranked department. The last time there was a ranking of plant pathology departments in 2013, we were the top ranked department in the country. So we know that that's not necessarily the case now. We've had some retirements, we've had some faculty that have departed, and we're in the process of building the department back up to being a strong, full spectrum plant pathology department again.
And where do those grants come from?
Well, they come from all over the place. There are certainly commodity grants from soybeans, from wheat. We have grants that are coming from Kansas Department of Agriculture, from the National Science Foundation, from the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture, a place that I used to work. And so it's probably the biggest source of funds that come into the department.
We're visiting with Dr. Marty Draper. He is the head of the Plant Pathology Department at Kansas State University. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Be sure to come back after these messages for this week's Kansas soybean update.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
Ag
Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Hi, I'm Kim Mandring with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel, made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Charlie Griffin, Research Assistant Professor at Kansas State in the School of Family Studies and Human Services, joins us. And Charlie, the subject of rural mental health has become more prevalent in agriculture due to what we have seen in the ag economy across the board.
It's been a tough couple of years, and as always, when income goes down, the stress goes up. There are a lot of reasons for that. Farming is a stressful occupation in any year, but when you're struggling to get by, it's filled with unpredictability, uncontrollable factors, and unpredictable factors.
So if there is a farmer out there, a rancher, an ag worker out there who feels like they're struggling, what's the best recommended method for them to maybe talk with somebody?
Well, one of the things I'd say to start with is understand that not all, but a lot of the what we call mental health problems are anxiety and depression and high stress. And those often involve not just the mental health side, but also a financial aspect and also perhaps a legal aspect. People struggling with debts that they can't pay, delinquent loans. So I encourage people to find a way to reach out to all of that information. My strongest referral is to the Kansas Agricultural Mediation Service, and I have a toll-free number for them. It's 1-800-321-FARM, 3276. And I refer there because they are kind of the front door into people who can sit down with individual farm families and help with financial analysis, to do some projections, to get a real serious idea of exactly what condition are people in. They also understand the mental health side and are prepared to make referrals. The best referral until hopefully we can put together another farm hotline in the state, I encourage people to call their local area mental health center. So call them. But I encourage farm families to call and say, can you get me together with somebody that understands farming as well as the mental health side, so that they can start off with somebody that understands the stresses they're facing. One final resource, I would say, please consider calling your local extension office.
That's Charlie Griffin, Research Assistant Professor at Kansas State, who joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay with us after the break for more with Dwayne Taves and Jim Nelson, Swine Extension Specialist at Kansas State University.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here, the time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Summer is busy at Tarwater Farm and Home. We have just about everything you'll need for your summer projects, and we're consistently competitively priced. Tarwaters can help make your grass and garden grow, and we have a huge variety of equipment to cut it. If you have a farm, Tarwaters has the products and equipment to keep it going strong. And our expanded parking lot will make it even more convenient to shop. So come see us at Tarwater Farm and Home in Topeka. This segment brought to you by SureCrop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now Dwayne and Jim Nelson are discussing swine production right here in Kansas.
Dwayne Thames joining you once again on Ag AM in Kansas, and a chance to catch up with Dr. Jim Nelson at Kansas State University in the swine department. Jim, we think about swine production in Kansas, a vibrant industry that continues to grow in areas, others maybe not so much, but there's a lot of good things that are going on.
There is a lot of good things. We are pretty much Harvard in the Midwest here in terms of the Corn Belt, and we can set on the outside, as you mentioned, in some very biosecure areas in the western part of our state. Our industry continues to grow and prosper, and a lot of that's due to the technology and profitability that's returned to our industries the last couple years.
It is an industry that has changed in the dynamics of it over time, and we still see some changes. Obviously, there's room for individuality in each operation. Guys just got to figure out what makes it work on their place.
Yes, in the meetings this morning here at the Ag Summit, we talked to everything from niche marketing, which gives all producers a chance to market their pork, all the way up to some of the new packing plants that are being built throughout the nation and close to Kansas here, and the opportunities to grow our industry, as you mentioned, Dwayne. Lots of opportunities to increase swine production in the Midwest, and specifically in Kansas.
We think about why some of those things, apparent riddle supply of feed grains, a big part of that.
Yeah, we see grain sorghum. Of course, we've did a lot of the original research. Grain sorghum coming back in the equation for a lot of production systems where we used to just be corn-based. Now we feed a lot of grain sorghum. In the last couple of years, and unfortunately for some of our wheat farmer friends, we fed a lot of wheat to pigs. So there's always opportunities to use alternative grains as well as our staples that we have here in Kansas to grow our industry.
Talking about the consumer side, consumer acceptance, we've done a tremendous job at working to get that in a package that meets their needs.
Yeah, we've really learned the last few years, and I sat on the executive board of the Kansas Pork Association. They've done a great job explaining to our clientele and to our producers that people want to know where their food is raised, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking beef or wheat, and they want to know how it's raised. And so what we're really doing is getting the producers, those people that raise a wholesome product, and also then one that is extremely safe, on camera, on Facebook, online, and that way people can see who's raising their food, and that's why the demand for pork has grown so rapidly.
The other option as well that kind of dovetails with that, pork product, pretty versatile, I guess is a good way to put it. We see some of the national companies with the prepackaged stuff that's marinated, and it's just it's pretty hard for the average consumer not to get that done right.
You know, it's amazing. I gave talks in the 80s, and I said that, bacon would not be the staple of our industry. But if you look at the most profitable cut in a pig today, it is the belly or where the bacon comes from. And I also teach at the university. And on a lighter note, Dwayne, I always tell the students when they're taking a quiz, I don't care if it's on wheat or beef or what it's on. If you don't know the answer, just write down bacon, and every professor will give you partial credit because it's such a good product. Now, you talked about the marinated products. They're going like wildfire across the nation. The pork shoulders, a cut that we used to not think would be as high value, is extremely well accepted now in pulled pork. And then we haven't even talked about the tremendous increase in export of pork. We export about 26 to 27% of the pork raised in the U.S., and so we're just on a roll in terms of demand for our product.
All right, thanks to Jim Nelson at Kansas State University in the swine department on campus, joining us with an update on the swine industry here in the Heartland. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Come back after the break for this week's Angus Report.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except for when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. He said, well, I have to do surgery. I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at KFRM.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Angus Report.
It's a seed stock producer's job to sort through all the data and create cattle that work for his customers. For Brian McCullough, that begins by knowing his customers and their challenges.
Regarding the production environment in Wisconsin, we get 34 inches of rain a year, and there's 40 inches of snow throughout the year. And so from the 1st of November until the 15th of May, that's kind of the time where we need to feed stored feed. So I'd say in terms of differentiating the environment in Wisconsin, that's one of our factors.
Most of McCullough's bull buyers have other farming enterprises or off-the-farm jobs in addition to their herds.
I find more and more we have to make these cattle as maintenance-free as we can. And so what we're trying to focus on is creating Angus cattle that can calve without assistance and gain efficiently, and then at the end of the line put a product on the table that meets the specs of certified Angus beef.
That doesn't mean he breeds in calving ease at the expense of beef quality traits, or vice versa.
Here's the truth of the matter. All these traits are heritable, okay? And which means that if we put pressure on them and we're diligent about putting pressure on the various traits, we can affect those traits. So, for instance, if we're concerned that marbling, if we pursue marbling and ribeye and we'll sacrifice other traits, the only reason we have to sacrifice is we haven't stayed focused on them.
All 385 of his cows are in the top 20% of the breed for weaning weight, yearling weight, weaning value, and beef value.
I really have to say the tools that we're provided with by the association today allow me to put together a set of breeding objectives that I can keep the cow herd moderate, I can keep the cow herd easy fleshing, and I can still be in the top 25% of the breed for yearling performance, which is rate of gain, as well as marbling and ribeye. So the only challenge is back on we as producers to use the tools appropriately.
McCullough says the burden of follow-up is also on the breeders, noting check-in calls with customers throughout the year. I'm Bob Cervera.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break with Plain Talk.
SureCrop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. Based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. SureCrop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you You can always email me at Corey@SureCropFertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer it and work with you.
With nearly 100 years of broadcasting excellence, Ren Radio is now live on the internet playing hit songs of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Join Jack Diamond, Mac Collins, Les Glenn, Frankie C., Antonio Barber, Wings Callahan, and the real Don Steele for some of the best music ever recorded. Hear it at rendigitalmedia.com or get the Ren Oldies Radio app in Play Store or App Store and tell Alexa, good times and great oldies on Ren Internet Radio.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Now let's see what Kyle and Dwayne are up to on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk with Dwayne Taves.
Kyle Bauer, your fact or fiction question today. The maker, inventor of the waffle iron, wouldn't even eat them. Fact or fiction?
That would be my wife, Lisa Bauer.
Invented the waffle iron, but won't eat a waffle.
Yeah, I don't think she did. But she doesn't like waffles. And I will tell you, when I stay at the motel hotels where you can make your own waffle,
you take advantage.
No, I don't.
Oh, really?
Well, I do.
Thought you would, because you don't get them at home.
Well, there's just a lot of bread there, and it's just like, and then you
As
cover it
opposed
with
to a
sugar.
Pancake?
Well, same way.
Huh.
And you just cover it with sugar, and it's like, I need something a bit more substantial. But when I make it in there, number one, I pour about half a cup full in, and then I leave it on there about half as long.
Okay.
You know, because it has a timer.
Sure.
That makes noise.
It buzzes.
Yeah, and I don't wait that long. About half the amount of time, and then I pull it out. So it's not near as hard and not near as big. What?
Man, this is a complex
It's hard being me.
procedure
It is
being
hard
you at a
being me.
motel.
But that's the. But once
Waffle iron maker did not eat waffles. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
I wonder what he made it for then. His wife and kids?
Actually, it was to put the tread on the bottom of tennis shoes, but then he. No, I made that part up.
It's tennis shoe tread.
Yeah, wasn't there a movie about that, Mr. Flippy something or another? Yeah.
No
okay.
idea.
Farm household income.
Okay.
Okay. After you get all the bills paid, what's left if you're a farmer?
left?
Okay. Since the mid 1990s.
Okay, 90s.
Is average farm household income higher or lower than the average household income across the nation?
It's lower.
That's what I would have said too, but I would be wrong.
Really?
Yeah, since the mid-1990s, the income of the average farm household has surpassed that of non-farm households. Farm household income today derives from the number of income sources.
Right.
I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
You know, if
You
your
got an
wife
off-farm
works,
job, it adds
right.
in.
The financial well-being of farm households today depends less on the income. By the way, I'm sorry, I did not say this. This was 2016 data. Okay. So
a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and that makes a little difference too, because the last 2 years have been kind of hard. Depends less on the income from the farm business and more availability of remunerative off-farm employment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, you know what? All my life I've seen that.
Yeah.
Lots of farmers that have off-farm income.
I know, I'm thinking of growing up, and that's a long time ago. But there were
I
lots
didn't
of
think
farmers.
you grew up yet.
Yeah, well, out.
Okay.
But maybe not up. There were a number of farmers who were bus drivers.
Yes.
That provided supplemental income.
The large manufacturing plant that's just across the way here, when I was a kid, I would bet 80% of the people that worked in that plant were farmers. I mean, it was just normal. And some of them worked nights and some of them worked days. And they farmed as well. So you don't see that nearly as much today at the manufacturing level, not in Kansas.
Yeah.
So
I think more likely today it's one spouse or the other.
Right.
I'm not going to say whether it's the man or the woman, but I think more farms today have one of the spouses working off farm.
Not
with a
compared to the
full-time
mid-90s, though.
No.
I mean, that was when the data line was drawn, was the mid-90s.
In the 90s, it took more
I mean,
than
20 years. Lots of people worked off the farm with both spouses in the mid-90s. That wasn't that long ago. You were an adult by then.
I was, theoretically.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.